I'm Hector Garcia, and in 2012, I started an advertising agency in my daughter's pink bedroom and with $750. Today, that agency is worth over $10 million. It took a lot of pain, plenty of failure, and a lot of hustle. Running a business isn't easy, but today I want to share with you what you usually don't see beyond the hustle. Welcome to episode number 4 of Beyond the Hustle podcast. I am Hector Garcia, joined here by a serial entrepreneur, not serial killer.
Don't say that.
The serial entrepreneur here who has run multiple businesses, Dave Valadez. And not only is he a incredible entrepreneur, but he is also a dear friend and brother to me. We'll go into more details about that. But Dave, thank you for being on the show today.
Appreciate you guys having me, man. It's always an honor. It's always great seeing the first episodes, and then finally being here is kind of surreal. Especially like you said, it's different when it's like your brother on the other side, you know. So.
Yeah, it's a bit different because we got to act professional.
Normal.
Yeah, we got normal because we're not normal. But Dave also runs a company called BizHub. Dave, for the next 2 minutes, give us some background on BizHub.
Right. So BizHub, we are what you would consider neutral technology advisors, right? So for businesses, when you're thinking about opening a business, right, you need to get internet, you need to get phone systems. And a lot of the times you're sitting there having to call all these different people for these different services. You're not the expert in who's providing the best service, who's providing the best pricing, who gives the best support. And then that's where we come in, right? So the fact that we're not biased to any provider, an example would be, you call us, we're going to bring you 3-4 different options and tell you, hey, this one makes more sense for you because of this. This one makes more sense for you because of this. And we sit there and we'll choose the option that makes the most sense. And the best part about all this is we're customizing your network, your phone systems. You're not paying us. The providers you end up choosing with, they pay us. So in other words, you're getting our service for free. So it wouldn't make sense for you as a business owner not to want to go that route because, again, we're not biased compared to like Comcast. If you call Comcast on the phone right now, they have to tell you that they're the best, that's the best pricing. When in reality, we can tell you, you know what, they're not the best pricing. They are. So that's more or less, that's the reason why you would want to call someone like BizHub.
Very similar to Brand Nation, where we're a marketing agency.
Correct.
Right. So we resell advertising, but we're not biased to any media outlet. In fact, our clients hire us to represent them and make the right and smarter business decisions on marketing. So in your case,
it's exactly the same. And it's just technology, really what it is. And it's every day there's a new form of technology. And then again, that's where we come in.
And you help any type of business.
Any kind of business, correct.
So mom and pop who just got started.
Correct.
Right.
Small business, working from home even, all the way to enterprise level. You got 100 employees, need 500 different phone systems. We can pretty much scale it from A through Z.
Yeah. And so you've been in business for a while now for that.
So for BizHub, we technically started it we're going on 2 years. So about a year and a half. This last year is when we kind of started going full throttle, kind of really investing 100% of ourselves, right?
Right.
And it's me and a business partner. So it's just, getting the ball rolling really.
And tell me a little bit about your background. We don't have to go into all your childhood years and when you started to walk and talk, but tell us about your background, what got you started, and when did you realize that you were meant to be an entrepreneur?
Man, honestly, so I'm from Pasadena, right? So I feel like I grew up like most kids in Pasadena. I had a Hispanic family, Hispanic culture. My dad was a labor worker, worked 5, 6, 7 days to make sure, there was food on our table. My mom was, a stay-at-home mom. Again, pretty standard with a lot of my friends back in that area, right? But definitely the work ethics my dad shown us as we were growing up is second to none, right? And then I feel like my mom helped by really instilling like that faith in God, right? So I feel like that's the two things that I felt that I grabbed from my parents growing up. Outside of that, I felt like most kids grow up in Pasadena, and it's like you might go work in the plants, you might go in the military, you might end up in jail. It's like there's several that's kind of it's such an area where there's a crossroad, right? Where
it's like a small town.
Exactly. So, but I felt like for me, it was definitely in high school when I got to high school, and the first time I did something out of the norm where I kind of took a risk out there is I started doing music. I fell in love with music, and me and a buddy of mine decided to make some mixtapes,
right,
and sell them at school. And I've never done any of this. I've never sold anything that was my own. And I was like, you know what? Monday and Tuesday, I made and printed a bunch of flyers. We didn't have social media back then, so I couldn't post and just reach 100 or 1,000 people. So we made like 500 paper flyers, and I gave them to everybody in the football team and all my friends, and we passed them out Monday, Tuesday, saying that Wednesday I was going to bring my CD and I was going to sell it for $5. So that Tuesday night, me and my friend, we stayed up all night burning these CDs, because you had to burn CDs back then, and it would take a long time to get one CD burnt. We had 5 different computers going at once, and I went to school with 50 CDs. And what was crazy is when I got dropped off in the morning to the moment where I walked to like our hangout spot, I sold 10 CDs of people just coming up to me saying, hey, I need a CD, you need a CD.
Right.
We ended up selling 200 that weekend. And again, I'm 16 years old.
Yeah.
So we made $1,000 in that weekend off something that I created, idea that we had, that we promoted, and we saw results. And I think at that moment.
You weren't, also you had a good product. So in other words, you weren't selling crappy music either.
Right. And it was just, it was people knew me. People, would hear me at the parties and all that good stuff, right? And it was just something different. Nowadays, I feel like it's a lot more, you see that everywhere, but yeah, so I think, just that whole process, right? That was the first time that something like that ever happened. And I definitely think that was that spark. Like that's where I was like, you know what? I think going against the grain on some things, it can pay off,
And so from there, you went to now the career world, then you ventured into working at the gym, at Bally's, and then from there you worked at, then to Comcast. But along the way, you learned a lot of things about business. What are 2 things or 2 or 3 things that you think from takeaways from working for another company? I've always told people, we have a lot of youngsters come up to me and they say, hey, asking a lot of questions. In fact, this morning I had a guy ask me all these questions about business. And, a lot of people think, well, I'm just going to start a business and I don't want to go work for somebody else. But there's a lot of things that I've learned from working with the corporate world and working for someone that I still apply today. So what are some things that from working at Bally's and working at Comcast, what are some things that you feel like you've learned from them?
I think one of the biggest things of late that I learned was just looking at the trends of things, right? Processes, the responses people are giving you, clients, customers, because they tell you in what direction your business is going.
Right.
Let's just say you're at a store and all of a sudden you notice sales are down. You can, if you look at all the trends, if you break down all those metrics, it can tell you what part of your business isn't intact, or maybe you're dropping the ball on, right? So for me, it's really just having those processes in place, because I feel like whether you're a mom and pop, whether you're starting, whether you're already working for a big corporation, those systems and those processes, it makes it to where eventually you can scale.
Yes.
And I think that's the big thing, even for me now, where I'm learning is how to either delegate or create a process and respect that process, because it's like, as when you're the one running the business, you can say, you know what, I'm not gonna do that process today. I'm gonna just do it the easy way and do this. It's so easy to do that, but these are just bad habits and practices that you create.
And then somebody else will follow the same process or same habits that you have.
And it's hard to scale that. So I feel like that, just having those processes in place and respecting them is one. And then sales. I think the biggest thing is sales is, it doesn't matter what your business is, what your service is. At some point, somehow you have to sell that. Right. And I mean, I think focusing and making sure, and again, for me, that's been my strength, right, is focusing on the sales, that process, the skills. I mean, I think it doesn't, because you can apply that to anywhere. You know, I can leave what I'm doing today and go sell lawnmowers tomorrow, right, and I can still apply what my skills, you know?
Yeah, and you know, as I know Dave for now quite a long time, and obviously he's like a brother to me, but you know, one of the main things I really admire about Dave is his ability to juggle multiple businesses at once, or multiple, you know, and I'm gonna throw this out there, you know, you have a bit of an ADHD issues, right? Not for anybody to know, but now everybody knows. But in that, there's some strengths.
Let's go over all my diseases.
Yeah, there you go. Okay. So tell me about the STD you got. No,
it's too early for that, man. I'm drinking water.
No, but you know the ADHD issues. I was actually doing some research on that, and it looks like a lot of business owners have the same issue. But you have the ability, which I don't. You know, you have a strength where you're able to juggle multiple streams of revenue from multiple brands or multiple organizations.
And it's, I mean, definitely like I do it, right? I mean, but it's one of those where it's kind of like also my weakness too, right? You know, because it's a lot of, as I got older, I have to self-reflect and, okay, Dave, you know what, maybe I need to slow down on this right now. Maybe it's not the time. Kind of like the conversation we were having earlier, right? Just because yes, if it's up to me, that's part of the thing. I get a new idea or I see something and I'm like, you know what, it sparks an idea and tomorrow I want to go do it.
Yeah.
But and before in the past, I would chase it, you know, and before I know it, I just left my last idea.
Yeah.
So it's like I'm doing so many things, but I'm never completing things. So it became when I was able to kind of self-reflect and actually like, okay, you know what, let's kind of stop right here and just, I guess in a sense, monitor that.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, then it's definitely it can work in your favor, I guess, but it goes back to those processes because I don't just apply it per business. I literally try to apply this process to like my life so that I can organize everything and keep everything intact. Otherwise, I'll wake up and it's like I'm like a leaf floating in the wind, like just going wherever the wind takes me, you know?
Right. So let's talk about your ADHD. Let's therapy session. By the way, shout out to Nolan, our producer of Beyond the Hustle podcast. Thank you, Nolan, for everything and showing up today, for producing the show. Hopefully, this show is interesting to you and much interesting than the Habibi show that we did a couple of months back.
And you're no longer just the video guy; you're also my therapist. Apparently,
yeah, now you're a therapist. But you know, we talk about this a lot, the ADHD stuff. You know, a lot of people who are watching this is a very common issue. You know, as far as what a lot of people deal with. And I think everybody tries to diagnose themselves. They go on ChatGPT or their Google and they say, oh, I have this, I have that. But
I mean, so for me, what's crazy is I literally did that in this office, right?
Yeah.
Actually, it was the other office I had, but it was here with you guys where I'm on the phone talking to somebody and I'm working on the computer and it was my insurance person. She's actually a friend of mine. So she's known me since high school.
Right.
And she's telling me about the plans and the policies and I guess she just noticed that my mind went off and she's like, hey, are you still listening or did your ADHD kick in? And I was like, what? Like, no, like, yeah, I wasn't listening. But then as she's talking, I was like, yeah, go ahead. I'm listening. I'm looking up like ADHD symptoms. And literally the first 10 that popped up, I'm going down the list. And I'm like, oh my gosh, 9 out of 10 on the money.
And then halfway through you got lost.
No, no, it said click here to see more.
Yeah.
I shut that shit down real quick.
Yeah.
Let me just I don't want to see no more of this, you know? But that was the first time that I even because it's not, it made sense. It's not a thing people talk about.
Right.
You know, it's not a thing people talk about, or I didn't know that was even a thing. But when I go back and look at my earlier life and things that I was doing, projects, or just whatever was going on in my life or I was trying to do, had I known, I mean, obviously it's not going to change the fact that you knew, if you know you have it, you don't even have it, or, you know, you're dealing with it, but just knowing how to identify and how to, I guess, how to offset it. Mm-hmm. Had I known that, it would make a little bit of a difference, you know, because now you're identifying that this isn't just you being forgetful. This isn't just you know, always waiting to the last minute. I mean, there's certain things that are going on in there that kind of cause that, right? So it's just how to offset it. And again, it just definitely opened my eyes to where now I understand. Like I understand. Okay,
You embrace it.
I understand my weaknesses. I understand if I don't write my schedule the night before.
Yeah.
If I don't really write out my day plan the night before, I know I'm gonna have a hard time getting things done because I'm gonna be doing things last minute.
Wow.
And
Yeah.
and it's, you know, some of the people that I hear talk about how to offset these things, and it's just, and how to just kind of get more control is literally will tell you, like, you want to write your stuff down the night before so that the next day you're just on go. You have a book in front or journal in front of you that's telling you exactly what you need to do. So you're not having to think about anything. You know, okay, at this time I'm doing this time I'm doing this. And then the first thing that I do, or that I try to, like, my two non-negotiables is write my things down at night, and then the first thing in the morning is go for a jog, a walk, something, because again, these are things that are proven that will help you have a little bit more focus during the day, you know? So again, it's not about a magic cure trick, but it's just how do you offset it,
how you manage it.
And manage it. Exactly.
So, you know, we could talk about the cons of, you know, I guess the weaknesses of having ADHD, because everybody knows those issues. But what a lot of people don't really talk about is what do you believe that there's the pros of having that in running a business?
I mean, I think creativity, you know, I think my mind just wanders off sometimes. And it's like, as we're talking here and I'm hearing you speak, a light bulb might go off and I'm like, you know what, I might want to, that's just literally how the mind works. So,
no, and I've been with you, and I've seen your mind like go ding, 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 like you hit jackpot, and I guess like 3 different businesses happening in your head at one time.
Well, what's funny is with you, like one of the events that I've done that went well for us was the crawfish, that Pasadena Crawfish Festival, and that was something me and you were just out talking.
We were at like a dinner or something.
Yeah, I think we were in San Antonio, and we were just out talking. Our friend had already passed out
just by the whiff of the drink.
He had one beer, and so, anyways, so. We were just talking, and that idea was sparked,
right?
And then that next crawfish season, we put it in play. So it's just, again though, but that's literally how. And I think the one thing is coming up with the ideas, right? The other thing is acting on them, putting them into play, like being.
You do it,
and
when a normal person, which that's why I say that I've said this for a while, is that, you know, in business owners, they are not normal. We are not normal. You would say, you know, when I worked in radio and TV before, I would always like wonder myself, because my clients are B2B, which is business to business, and I would always wonder, what's wrong? Why are these business owners, why do they act this way? Or why do they talk a certain way? Or even the way their mannerisms and stuff like that was just weird and different. And now I became one, right? And that was me. And I realized that the business owners, they're just not normal. There's something a little bit off, and you got to be a little something crazy. You got to be a little crazy and not mentally all there to do what you do.
You have to. I mean, you have to be crazy enough to think someone's going to buy into your idea.
A sane person won't do what we're doing. Why? Why would you?
It's out the norm. Yeah. And I think, and it's funny because my fiance Jess tells me all the time, she was like, you know, your friends are weird. But a lot of my friends are entrepreneurs. Yeah. A lot of my friends have businesses.
Yes.
And not to say that's why they're weird, but it goes to what you're saying. Yes. Like, I think there might be some kind of a connection, because I agree. I mean, I think at some point you have to think outside the box to.
And to us, we're normal.
For us, it's normal.
We're just normal. But at outside looking in, you know, as people like the employees and staff and people who don't run businesses, which are sane people, they're like, man, these people are either a-holes or they think differently. They're crazy and lunatic.
And it's like they say, like that saying goes, right? Like sometimes you have to jump off the building and build your wings on the way down.
Right.
Sane people, who in the right mind is going to do that? You know, and I think that's one of those things where, I mean, it takes someone that crazy willing to do that to try to start a business or think of an idea and say, you know what, let's see if it works. That's
the insanity behind it, but it works. And eventually we just don't give up until we figure it out. And to me, I go crazy if I don't have a solution for it, right? So if I'm trying to find a solution, I'll be up to 3, 4 in the morning thinking, or I'll wake up in the middle of the night trying to find a solution. I hate going to bed at night knowing there's not a solution for a problem.
No.
And, but along the way, we get better, we figure out the solutions, and then we find a way to make money off of it and profit, right? But you're in business now 2 years. Would you consider you guys now profitable?
Yeah, no, for sure.
Okay.
So the good thing about with BizHub is, we're technology based. I can work from anywhere, right? As long as I have my backpack, which if you see me, I typically have my backpack with me. I have my laptop in there, so I can work from anywhere. So I don't have, the overhead isn't what most places have to deal with, because I do everything from my computer.
Yes, I was at your engagement and you had your backpack with you while you're doing it. By the way, congratulations to Dave, recently engaged to a beautiful woman, Jess.
Thank you.
And, incredible woman. She's also an entrepreneur. One day I'm going to have her on here too as well. You guys are just like the ultimate power couple, where she runs her own business too, and you run yours, and you guys kind of just feed off each other, right?
I think that's like the yin to my yang, right? Because she is the sane person.
Yes.
So I'm the one that's definitely putting these ideas in her head and like, hey, we should do this, you should do this, you should try this. And she's the one that, keeps things organized. And again, the yin to the yang. Yes. It's like there does
to your weaknesses.
Someone does have to be. It can't just be a bunch of crazy people.
Yeah.
Someone has to be normal at some point. To kind of like
they don't work out.
It makes it works well. And thank God for her business, Her Way Studios. It's doing well.
Yeah.
And I mean it's I think the best
part. For
part.
Another location, right?
Yeah, that's kind of the next step now. So and the best part about it is like whether it's my business or specifically in her business too, is seeing it just come from an idea.
Sure.
We talked about it, brainstormed on it, did some marketing, some branding, put it into play, built the product, got better at it. Mm-hmm. Like seeing the whole process, right? Like we knew, okay, something new, so we started perfecting it. And then now to the point where she's at and where she's getting to, like, there's a demand, and just seeing it, especially for me, because I am not a part of that business.
Right.
I hope with the branding, the marketing, all that good stuff, right? But that is her baby, and to see it grow and get to the point where it's at now, and me just sitting back, I mean, I think that's what it's about.
Right.
Like
that's cool.
Having an idea.
Yeah.
And it goes back to like what I was talking about, like in high school.
You created something.
You started with an idea, and now you have an actual income.
Yeah.
You're paying bills.
Yeah.
You're paying bills, and
cool feeling.
And it's an amazing feeling. Yeah. And I think that's like the high that I think people like us are chasing, and yeah, no. So just wanted to say like that it's just different.
I remember when that's part of my ADHD. I interrupt, but I remember when I first started, and I was like, man, I can't wait to get to a place when I could actually have a steady salary, and not where it's whatever cash flow came in was my pay. Like I remember one week was like $500. Next week, $300. Week after that, $1,000, and then it's steady. And then I'm like, now I look at my payroll now, and like just 4 or 5 months ago, my payroll was $100,000 a month. Not mine, not my pay, but for the staff, we were paying at the time $100,000 a month for salaries. That's crazy.
I could tell you guys have smart waters,
but that was, we don't have that now, thank God. But we've been able to improvise and change things. But you look back and like, man, look at those simple times when you're like, and you do think about the moments like, man, you created something that it's its own economy, right? It's its own economic world where it's providing salaries. I was
about to say you're at a point too where like,
and my salaries
you're providing incomes for individuals that use that income to support their families. Yes. So it's like, again, those are the highs that I think that, and those are the pros, right? Because obviously, right, it's to start a business and run a business. It's a bunch of just running around, and there's a lot of drama and craziness that goes to it. But I think those are the rewards, right? When I see a business start from an idea, and now it's providing income. You have an idea, and now you're providing incomes for others and their families. Like that's
the mind blowing thing. Is to me is like I remember when it was like, man, okay, now I have a steady salary, and it was just me and an assistant at the time, and now we have a team of people, and it's just like wow, we've created something. And not only that, then you get to a place where, where I could actually, I feel like I could take it some time away and have somebody else run the operation, and I'm still getting a set pay.
And that's part of the scaling, that's part of having the processes that we're talking about, putting them in place so that one day you can step away and the machine is still running.
Yeah.
The machine is still running. But honestly, I think that's really what it's always been about. Like, it's just growth.
Right.
And I think I think that's something that I've always personally had to go through is I get to a point and I'm very easily like, okay, you know what? Like, what's next?
Right.
I've tried jobs before where it was just hourly. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's great because, you know
what you're gonna make,
how much you're going to make, how much you count on. But then it's like, man, I kind of like, what's next? What's next?
Right.
And then,
you're never content.
I'm never content. The way
it's not about money either. It's just about growth.
So think about it. When I was growing up, I remember having this conversation as kids, right? Like, we were hoping and dreaming of one day making six figures. Like, that wasn't normal. That wasn't normal in my household or in my neighborhoods. Like, that wasn't, people's parents just weren't making six figures left and right. And that was always like, oh, that'd be nice. That'd be nice. And then you fast forward and it's like, I purposely left a career where I was making more than six figures to start something of my own. So it's like when I think about it, I'm like, you got to be a crazy dude to do something like that, right. But again, it's like, it goes to the what's next. Yeah. Like, where's the growth? And here we are.
Yeah, I have meetings with my team members and my guy here in Eva, and I'm like, what's our next move? Like, what's the next move? What we're doing next? I don't want to be comfortable.
A novella.
We got that. We got plenty of that. Brand Nation novella, right? But let's get back to, speaking of novellas, let's get back to you and Jess.
Speaking of drama, let's go back to...
No, there's no drama in that world, but
no, thank God there's not.
No,
man.
She's a really good woman, and I'm blessed to have her a part of our lives. But with you, both of you guys, and maybe this is a conversation we need to have with her and you together, but how do you separate that? Because I used to have a bit problem going home, and then I would just unload and vent on Eva, who not necessarily as a business owner, was trying to understand business at the time, and it really caused some frustration at home. Mm-hmm. Do you guys have that frustration, or you guys?
I think we caught on. So I learned a lot with Jess. Mm-hmm. Like, she taught me a lot about communication, right? I didn't really have that. Like, It was always like, I would go home to always have a guard up, right? I never vented. That just wasn't a thing for me, And with Jess, she was really big on just communication. And honestly, it just made a night and day difference when I can be 100% transparent with somebody. So when we're talking about, the frustrations, I don't have to say it. Like, she sees it.
Yeah.
She can like she can hear it, the way I breathe, the noises I make.
You're snoring when you're awake.
I'm working on that, man. I'm working on that. We'll tell that story here in a minute when I was, but all right, look, here's the story. We were both working at the desk. Hector's on that side. I'm on this side. There's two computers right here facing the screens, facing him, facing me. And I'm working on my stuff. And I'm just sitting there working. Then I just see a head pop out.
I'm like this.
I just see a head pop out, and he's looking at me like, "You all right?" I was like,
"No, are you asleep?"
I was like, "You asleep?" I was like, "Yeah." I was like, no, bro, I'm awake. He's like, "Bro, you're snoring."
Snoring while you're awake.
All right, man. I'm working on it. I'm a little heavy, man.
No, you lost some weight since then.
Well, yeah, all the shaming. No, but
let's put that on TikTok.
No, don't do that. So, but yeah, back to Jess, man. Just being, she can literally tell. She can tell when something's wrong, right? So, it's one of those things where I have to remember that. I guess I make her the escape, right? So it's one of those where doesn't matter what's going on, doesn't matter what it is with the business. It could be something we're doing together. It could be a project, whether it's an event, because a lot of the events she's helping me with a lot of the stuff. So it's just identifying that, okay, our home is like our safe place. And like, not that we're not talking about business or work, but understanding that we're there to kind of comfort each other, you know? So again, I give her all the props on that because I feel like she really instilled that in us in our relationship early. So now that, because in the beginning, it wasn't like we had so much going on. Now there's a lot going on between her being at her business.
And she has to focus on that.
And exactly.
And then not only that, you have two businesses you got to focus on, and then you got to focus on each other too. I think you got a wedding now to plan.
So that's,
a lot of work.
The ADHD.
A lot of work,
just overloading as much as you can, and we'll figure it out, you know. But no, I think, and then the bachelor party, like, oh my God, that's a whole plan in itself. Just kidding. But that's really what it comes down to. I think is she was able to really put that in our relationship. That I mean, no matter what we got going on, we continue to have that communication. We remember that is a safe zone, that safe space,
right? And
it's worked.
You know, and I'll go back to Eva too. Me and Eva have come a long way, you know, in running the business now 13 years. And she is an essential, critical part of this business. I would not be where I am today for a couple people. Eva, Sammer, Dave, and my staff. And that's one of the main reasons why I have you here too as well, is because I'm going to tell a little bit of a story about your involvement. You know, when this business has been through some turmoil. Brand Nation has gone through a lot. Thank God I'm blessed to say that I've been able to make it this far, and we're still going. And I still say we're just getting started. But through our turmoil, there's always been that one consistent friend, and you would know your true. And I always tell people, who your friends are is going to make or break your business. You know, making sure you have the right circle around you. It's cliche, but show me your friends and I'll show you your future. Mm-hmm. If you have clowns that you surround yourself with, then you're going to become one. If you surround yourself with successful people, that's who you're going to become. If you surround yourself around doctors, lawyers, and dentists, then most likely you're going to be in that same industry. You're going to evolve into the people that you surround yourself with. And that's why the friendships and the relationships that you have around yourself is so important in business. And looking back in my 13 years in running this business, it wasn't the money that carried me through. It was the relationships that I had that carried me through this business. This year, we were nominated as one of the top 3 agencies here in Houston. And we didn't make number 1, but we will be. We're aiming for it, and that's okay.
Of course.
And but I could reflect back and say, man, what were the points in our journey at Brand Nation that obviously we could point out all the failures, but what were the points that caused us to come up? And that was, I gotta tell you, most of those times you were there. When COVID happened, you were there. Let's go back even further than that.
I might be the reason.
Yeah, maybe
I might be the cause.
You were the patient one. Patient zero.
I'm seeing a trend here.
Yeah. When we had burglaries,
I was physically there.
You were there. You were like a block away.
I was eating at Mize. Just clear. I wasn't at the robbery.
Burglaries.
I was at the restaurant next door, and there was a burglary going on. But anyways.
And that was a defining moment for us too, as a young company, for 6-7 years at the time. And we got wiped out 4 times in 1 year and twice in 1 week. And during that time, you were there. Then COVID happened. We got wiped out. And I remember sitting there at my desk at the office, and they were doing these lockdowns, and they were announcing on the news, and I was getting phone call and phone call after phone call, and literally in one day, I had my revenue was wiped out by 90%. And at that time, $500,000 in revenue is still a lot of money. Of course. But $500,000-$600,000 of revenue in 2020 was everything to me. And we lost that money in one day. And just like you just see like this crossing out and client after client calling to cancel. And I will never forget Dave calling me up and saying, "Hey, Heck, how are you holding up?" And we went to a bar afterwards and all that stuff. We could tell a story later about that. But the thing is, Dave was there. Then again, a few years later after that, Brand Nation had a big falling out. We got into a lawsuit. We had some issues here at the company, and we lost $1.2 million in about 90 days. And I didn't know how we were going to survive. But
but you were there. You still, you're right.
I might be the reason all these bad things happen.
But no, so, you know, the moral of that story, the point of the story is that who you surround yourself with is what's gonna make or break you. And you weren't putting salt in the wound. You weren't there to push me down. You were saying, heck, let's get back up. I know what you're capable of doing. I know I've seen you do it and rise and fight again. If there's anybody that can do it. I will never forget the speech you gave to me when I had my head dropped down. I was sad. I was nearly the point of tears during COVID. I was at the bar and I was down and I was like, and while breaking news was happening in the overhead systems, and I remember I will never forget that speech you said. And you said, Hector, if there's anybody that can come back, it's you.
I got this speech from ChatGPT.
And
there was no ChatGPT, but no, honestly, like it goes to show where, like, I mean, you surround yourself with people, not only that, you know, just because we're friends or whatever, or but people that you look up to, that you want to, and you want to be a part of their success, you know. And it's one of those where it's one of those where that's the thing about entrepreneurs, right?
Sure.
Or people with our type of mentality is like, things happen and these are things that we don't have control over, but knowing that you're capable of starting something from nothing, it's almost like, look, you've done this before. You've built something from the ground up, you know? So I just feel like that's ultimately what it was about.
And my point to all that is like that saying is that, you know, the friendships you have, that's going to be the defining moment of what carries you. You're going to have people. I mean, in the now 13 years of business, we had our ups and downs. And by the way, the ups will be there, and the downs will always be there, right? But you're going to see who your true friendships are. It's in those down moments, because when it's down, and when it's down, and you're down in your luck, and when you're at the bar and you're sitting there and trying to figure out what to do next, you don't know how you're going to make it, or when you're sitting in an office and you think you have your best friends around you. And you think you're there and you're saying, hey guys, we have $135,000 we got to make to the end of this month. And we're like, we don't know how we're going to make it, but we're going to try to figure it out. In January of 2023, I was probably the lowest point of my life. And I remember I was sitting there with Dave and a couple of friends there. Well, I thought they were friends.
I was there.
Yeah, and I thought they were friends. And I was sitting there and I was like, guys, we have $135,000 to make it for the end of the month. I made it this far, and I don't know how we're going to do it. Let's roll up our sleeves. And Dave, and I remember Dave's face like, 135 is like 2 weeks left in the month. But you know what? Those two other friends, they're no longer here. They left and they walked out on me. But you know who was still there? Is Dave. And now today, this year, we're projected to hit $10 million in the business. So it is crazy how those moments create success. But I reflect back on the people that I have that had been there for me. And you always look at those moments and you look at those moments and say, you know what? Sure, it was hurtful what happened, but you will always remember the people that pulled you out of it.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Agreed.
And I would say that the success of this business is because of who I surrounded myself with. And I'm blessed to have some incredible people in my life. And that is why it's so important, Dave, that, you know, entrepreneurs, I tell the youngsters, I tell them all, I said, make sure you surround yourself with good people. And how you know if they're good for you is when things go bad. Are they still with you?
You see who's there.
You see who's there. And I had some people I thought were very close to me who would burn me, who robbed from me, stole from me, who I thought I had all those issues. But in the midst of 10, if you have 10 people, if you have one good person in your life that could be there for you, consider yourself blessed.
Yeah, no, I think in general, right? Like life or business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you want to surround yourself, whether it's obviously a relationship with someone that you're dating, someone that you're with, or just someone that you're just hanging out with socially. Like it's the same. It works the same way. Doesn't matter what part of your life, right? Like who you're surrounding yourself with, who you're around, who you're going here, going there. That ultimately is gonna, it's like you're saying, like it's gonna ultimately someone's going to persuade somebody,
Sure.
right? And it's one of those where, I mean, I guess the question you got to ask yourself is like, are they uplifting me or are they bringing me down?
Yeah.
You know, and I think,
Are you a better person because of them?
That's a better way
Right?
to put it.
Am I a better person because of Dave? Or is Dave a better person than me?
And that's something that there were a few years back where, you know, I had asked myself that question. It's like, okay, am I typically the one leading in the room all the time?
Yeah.
And at one point I had to say, you know what? I might need to surround myself with new people because I want to learn too, you know?
Right.
And it's how we grow. It's how you grow as a person, as a entrepreneur or just in general, but it's are you growing because of the people that you're surrounding yourself with? So I think that's the best way to put it.
Yeah. And I've told people this, and I'm sure you heard me say this. You're the CEO of your life. You hire, fire, promote, and demote those. Right. And that is probably one of the most critical parts of my life is deciding who's. I remember there was a conversation that we had a few years back, and that somebody had said, "Dave, what exactly did what exactly did you do to Hector that caused him to say?" You always remember. I will always remember, and I think people do this too, is that people you remember who was there to help you, and who made things worse when you were down.
For sure.
Always. And that's kind of a sad note of that. But we're here today. We're both successful. You know, I still got a lot more to go. And you're now here running BizHub, one of the most powerful.
It's the new baby. You know, it's definitely the new baby. And I try to take everything that I've always learned, the good and the bad. And I mean, think about it. Like, in those moments for you, I was there, but I mean, I learned from that as well. It wasn't just like you learning and not to say that, I was there to try to gain something from it, but I genuinely learned from being around in those moments. So it's one of those things where like I apply that to my life now and to the business now so that obviously my goal is to not make a lot of those mistakes that either I made in the past, I've seen others make in the past, because ultimately it's defining this better product, right? And this better service. And I think that's kind of the end goal.
What makes BizHub different?
I mean, I think for the most part with BizHub is we're real people. You know, it's I think especially in my industry and the technology, I mean, how many times do you got to pick up the phone and you're dealing with these either call center in the Philippines or you're dealing with a bot, and it's just, for business owners, there's a lot of frustration there because I mean, think about it. Like, what happens if your internet went down for the whole day?
Yeah, production stops.
It's a pretty big impact. So let's just say the internet goes down for the day. I mean, you're going to sit there and you're going to have to call and get on these phone calls, figure out who can come out, or you call BizHub, you dial, you could even just text me like, "Hey, Dave, this is going on," and then we take care of everything. So it just, the idea is to let us deal with all the technology, all the internet, all that stuff that people and business owners are typically too busy to deal with. Let us take care of that.
Yeah.
And again, we're real people. I'm a text away, a call away, you know, and that ultimately makes the biggest difference in what we do in our industry.
For the young entrepreneurs who are looking to jump into starting a business, what are some things that they need to know?
Sales. I mean, I think everybody at some point needs to know how to sell, whether it's a product, whether it's a service. I mean, at the end of the day, this world is built as far as business goes. I mean, there's not a business that's going to succeed without selling something, a service, you know? So I think learning that, because I've seen this in with businesses, because of our industry, we're B2B as well. We work with nothing but business owners. We're seeing new businesses open up all the time. And then even with bars and stuff that I've worked with in the past, people have the idea, people have the money behind it, and they think, okay, if I can put this together, I can have a successful business. But who's going to sell that service? Who's going to sell that business? You know, and then for some of the people that maybe don't have the money, they have the idea. You have to be able to sell it. You can't afford to pay someone. You got to have, as a business, if you're not good at sales, make sure somebody on your team is good at sales. I mean, somebody can sell the vision and sell the product and sell the result. that has to be a part of it. So again, I was fortunate to learn about sales at the age of 18.
And you're creative too.
And yeah, so that's, I mean, again, that's, and I mean, that's,
side jab.
I think that's 2.0.
Side jab 2.0.
I think that's what's crazy is like the creative, the marketing branding part. And that's it. Years back, that was
you've gotten people promoted
the other way. But yeah, no, it's one of those things where in business, it's no longer you need a brand and market to get ahead. You got to do that just to be at par with everybody.
Right. And, you know, what are some challenges you face right now as a business owner?
I mean, I think right now, for the most part, is just, I would say those processes, right?
Okay.
Because it's a fairly new business. So it's implementing those processes. And then on top of that, it's having to wear different hats, right? As a business owner, especially in the early stages, you know, in the past, when we worked for the bigger companies, we were the salespeople, and we passed it on to the techs or to the support team or the care team, project managers. Now we're all those.
You got to wear multiple hats.
It's creating those processes where we can implement the same like top tier service in every process, every part of that process.
Right.
And that's the part where, again, it's a little challenging because it's only one of me and we're having to figure out a way to scale. And so, but again, I mean, that's part of the beauty, because now it's all us. Like, we have hands-on on everything. So everything's to our liking.
Yeah, you know, one thing about business owners that were, you know, people who have been successful, and I've seen people who try to start a business. You're not one of them, but people try to start a business, but they would try to live a luxury life immediately, you know, and they try to do the 9 to 6.
I was definitely one of those in the beginning, and not necessarily with BizHub. This was like early years, but
what are some things that you feel like you sacrificed?
As for now with BizHub,
right?
I mean, I definitely think those luxuries, those privileges, where for those that would follow my stories, you would probably see that I was traveling a lot more the last few years.
Yeah.
I didn't really do much of that this last year.
Yeah.
But it's just because it's like, okay, do we go for a trip, or do we invest in this, or do we put into this? So I think it's one of those where, I mean, like, let's work now, let's grind now so we can celebrate later, you know? And I think the biggest thing for us was just, being able to go all into your business.
What's your motivation?
I mean, family. I mean, that's ultimately when I was doing my walk today, right? And it's like juggling all these different things, and it's easy to let me just take a break.
Yeah.
Let me just, you know what, today I ain't gonna do nothing.
Yeah.
And I think about, I got 2 kids, you know, a daughter's about to graduate, and with her, she's about to become an adult. Like, she's about to literally turn 18 in a few months. She just had a prom.
Yeah.
And
crazy.
It's like, it's the idea of what kind of example am I going to give? You know, I want to, when it's all said and done, I want to be able to walk away from all this knowing that I left something for them, whether it was a skill, whether it was some kind of value. It doesn't necessarily have to be financially, right?
Right.
But I want to be able to say that I left and I gave them something they can build on. And until I feel that I've done that, I feel like that's going to be the why.
And they're better because of it.
100%. I mean,
they're better because of your parents.
Yes, and it should always be that way, where I want to be better off than my parents were, because I don't want to repeat everything they've done.
Sure.
Vice versa, same thing with my daughter. I want her to learn from my mistakes, learn from my errors, and we have a super close relationship. So, so she sees a lot. So I want her to learn from this, so that when she starts her adult life, she's starting at a much higher start than I did. But yeah, so I mean, when you ask me what's the why and what keeps me motivated, it's definitely my kids, you know, and Jess and my family around me, like being able to make them better because I was able to get better.
That's awesome. Well, Dave, this will do it for the show, episode number 4. Dave, you got any last words or anything you want to share to the audience?
No, definitely appreciate you guys having us. Again, if there's anything that I can say, is just sales, you know. Ultimately, it doesn't matter what it is, what kind of business. If you implement and learn those skills, it's just going to make your business that much better.
Brother, I appreciate everything that you have done for
Always.
me,
Sorry about
my family. My thumb. But no, by the way, he just
I didn't wear it because I didn't want to look like a weirdo on here, even though you already made me look like one with my ADHD. But yeah, so I didn't want to wear it because it was a little brace, but I did fracture my finger.
And by the way, one thing you'll learn too as a business owner, you'll eventually learn that you can't put yourself into aggressive sports because
it's flag football. Like it wasn't supposed to.
Yeah, aggressive sports where you're getting injured because the company still needs you.
You're right on. I'm learning.
Remember, I used to play ball. But anyways, thank you guys for listening and watching. And also thanks for people who, people come up to me when I'm at the gym or I'm on the streets and they're saying, hey, I'll follow you guys on the podcast. I'm really honored and privileged to have a following, and they're asking for what's the next podcast. So thank you for your patience. And until next time, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and also share this feed. But anyways, appreciate it. And thanks for watching and listening to the Beyond the Hustle podcast.